Snowballs.
Great show for you this week. It is unbelievable how great this show is.
Magnificent.
We have 2 new segments for you on this show.
2, and we're going to introduce those
later on.
Later on, of course.
Yeah. So let's get right to it. Around the horn.
Around the horn.
Around the horn.
Give me some grounders, or some free agents, as it were. First off, we're going to go to Brandon Webb and Arthur Rhodes signed deals with the Texas Rangers. Yeah, I'm kind of liking these moves, you know? Good way to... I mean, they missed out on Cliff Lee. Brandon Webb, you know, when he's healthy, he's, magnificent. He's got crazy, great stuff.
Yeah, well, they're trying to fill the hole that Cliff Lee left. And remember, people glorify Cliff Lee, but he's not quite the pitcher you might think he is during the regular season.
Yeah.
Brandon Webb has some statistics that rival, if not overmatch, Cliff Lee's statistics in the regular season. You look at his 2008 record of 22-7, and Cliff Lee won 22 games as well that year. But the year before that, he was an 18-game winner as well. So Brandon Webb has great potential, but the last couple seasons missed out a lot on injuries, so we'll see if he's able to recover from that. As far as Arthur Rhodes goes, here's a guy that's been around since 1991.
He's pitched 19 seasons. He averages 63 appearances a year and, had a 2.29 ERA, and he's a lefty. I think it's a pretty good pickup for the Rangers. It's always helpful to bolster your bullpen. Especially Brandon Webb. I don't know if he's really going to be the same pitcher he was just because he's been injured the past 2 seasons. But, if he can get back together, and, I think it's, they didn't pay a whole lot for him, which is good, but if he can regain his old form, he can be, very dominant. So, I think it's a great deal.
Yeah,
for both teams.
Going back
to both players,
and going back to Arthur Rhodes a bit, the Rangers are now a contending team. They're the pennant winners of last year. Arthur Rhodes is a very experienced player in the postseason. He's been mostly solid throughout his postseason resume. The one year I'd point to where there were some problems was his 2000 year with Seattle, when his ERA in the postseason was 31.50.
Which, in that one game, he gave up
7
earned runs in only 2 innings pitched. That one game is a bit of an outlier, as he really has pitched 6 scoreless appearances. So this is definitely the guy you want to have around for the postseason, and for your regular season. And the Rangers, I think, are obviously the front runners for that division again, since obviously they won the pennant.
And the best thing about closers is they're cheap players.
Yeah.
About relievers is they're cheap players. Closers, on the other hand, ask for a lot of money and are more in the mix with starting players. But regular relief is pretty cheap stuff, and they can be very valuable depending on how things go.
We're going to move on to Carlos Gonzalez. Signs an $80 million deal for 7 years. If you've been following Twitter or any of our blogs or anything, I have been going nuts over this deal. I absolutely love it. Carlos Gonzalez is an insane player. I just think he's such a superstar. I'm glad to see the Rockies finally locking up their core with Troy Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez. You have to give credit to Rockies general manager Dan O'Dowd for getting these deals done. If you look at Carlos Gonzalez's numbers, he's only in his early 20s. He won the batting title. He had 35 home runs and he drove in 117 runs. And he was behind, obviously, the two arguably the two best National League players, Albert Pujols and Joey Votto, and he's I think he's younger than both of them. I'm not exactly sure on that. I think he's just an amazing player. Shipped around a lot, but they always knew him as a top prospect, and it's great to see him get this deal done. I think he likes Denver a lot, and what do you think, Fergus?
I just want to see what you think, because you seem really hyped up about this guy and his potential. He's been around since 2008. His real breakout year was this year, though. He hit .336, drove in 117 runs, and hit 34 home runs. Obviously, insane numbers that you have here.
197 hits as well.
But his 2009 numbers, and he didn't play as many games 2009, he played 89 games. But, you know, a little more to the mediocre side of things, 284 batting average, and his rookie year in Oakland, 242. So, do you think the Rockies might be jumping on this gun a little too fast, overvaluing Carlos Gonzalez's potential just based on 1 year?
No.
Okay. Moving on. This is going to dwell a little bit into the outside baseball world, but it's a big piece of news. Orioles closer Alfredo Simon has been charged with manslaughter, and he's turned himself into the police. Evidently, there was a fatal killing on New Year's Eve where Carlos Gonzalez allegedly shot up into the air.
Carlos Gonzalez.
Wow, we talked about him for a while. Alfredo Simon shot up into the air on New Year's Eve, and the bullet came down and killed 25-year-old Michael Castillo Almonte and wounded his 17-year-old brother Lou Perron. So Alfredo Simon is claiming that it was an accident, but it seems like it could be credible, but he still faces 1 or 2 years in prison. So,
I think it's a shame in general. My heart goes out to the deceased. Definitely don't want to shoot guns in the air.
Yeah, that's a little lesson for you guys.
A little life lesson.
At the best of times,
they do go
celebrations
and land on people sometimes and kill them.
It's not like it just floats up.
It's not like it doesn't just like puff in the air. But we're not scientists, but we do know that you don't want to shoot guns in the air.
But what about the Orioles losing this closer? Is that going to hinder them a lot?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think they sort of switched around closers last year. Koji Uhara was also someone closing at the end. I think he's a free agent too, and I'm not sure whether he's been signed or not. I think they're interested in keeping him back. I think they've just got a whole bunch of options at the closing position. We saw Mike Gonzalez, close games for the Orioles. We don't know if he'll be an Oriole next year or not.
And their team's not built around their bullpen. It's clearly an offensive-based team at this point with their acquisitions of
Derek Lee,
Mark Reynolds, and Derek Lee.
I think I think those are good acquisitions. They're still not in a position to compete, but I think they're stepping it up a bit.
And they're only not in a position to compete because of the teams they have to compete with in that division.
Yeah.
But the whole AL East is getting better.
Getting better.
It's going to be a really nasty division a few years down the road.